Wow, wow, wow. NCAAs, what a tournament. Man, did Vito wrestle tough or what? Talk about coming back. I mean, 2 losses in the season to Crookham and then just owned him. Hats off to both guys, right? We're certainly not putting anyone down. And Dayton Fix, I know that's got to be hard. I mean, going down for the 4th time in the finals, but think about how many people ever made it that far and just how good you are. And I get it, like people are older and there's and we've talked a lot about this, and I know I've seen a lot of people saying like, hey, there shouldn't be like, there's got to be an age limit. I do think there should be an age limit, but the reality is there's not right now. So everyone's on equal playing field in that regard, that right now people can stay longer. Whatever it is, it is. Like, you know what I mean? There's always going to be some rules that aren't fair, but I mean, that's not Dayton's fault or Vito or anyone like that. So, they might be a little bit older, but I mean, like I said, hats off to Dayton Fix. I mean, I thought Vito took it to him. Like, I like how he was aggressive the whole time. He was really moving. He might have been rushing a little bit, but I liked how he stayed active. I think for the Worlds, he's going to have to, and, far be it for me to critique the technique of Vito, who knows a lot more than me, but I like maybe less straight on shots, more a little bit angles, but he does it. He was doing that there. And like I said, who am I to critique that? Let's address the elephant in the room. These instant replays are ridiculous. They need to ban, and this is a controversial statement right here, but this is me, no instant replays. None. If you had to do an instant replay, if it's like you absolutely have to, 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds to review the call, and that's it. That's it. But if you have to ask me my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, it's like you are yours, I would say no instant replay, and here's why. It takes away from the endurance of the sport. It changes the match. Like Vito said, it breaks up. Now, I get it. Look, these are the rules now, so you just have to deal with it. I'm not making excuses. You got to wrestle. And like how Vito said, like the injury, the time. Well, it wasn't just the instant replays, but it was also the blood time, which could happen in any match. You don't get into the rhythm. So yes, that's the rhythm. But more importantly, wrestling, you want to wrestle. You want to encourage action. And I think we're talking about how to get people to not like our sport, have long instant replays. Now listen, hang on a second. Everyone wants to see justice being served. That's a human need. It's a virtue. Justice is a virtue. So we all want justice. We all want the right call to be made. These refs overall are doing an excellent job. You have to say it. With things moving so fast, these refs are doing an excellent job. Okay? It's not like some of these other state tournaments refs. These NCAA refs are doing a great job. But like, here's the other thing. If we're so focused on we have to get this call right at the expense of everything else, I think that's symptomatic of a bigger issue. I think that's a symptomatic of a bigger issue. Wrestling is supposed to teach us life lessons. Life lesson number 1, life's not fair. The right thing doesn't always happen. And I'm not saying we're happy about that, okay? I'm not talking about relativism. I'm not talking about subjectivism. There is an objective. There is an objective right and wrong. I get it. But things don't always work out like that, and we have to be able to move things along. Okay, the finals being like 3.5 hours, this is crazy in my opinion. And for a guy like me who is like in shape, like maybe not the best technician, but I worked real hard to get in shape, the last thing I want is my opponent to get a break. That's not fair. Go back to the Gable matches where it was 3-3-3. So it seems like with like all the sports, things get softer and softer over time. I think this is a little bit of like a catering to that. Again, just my opinion. We all want justice. We all want the right call. I don't want to see anyone get cheated, but the right thing's got to, and the right thing's got to happen. And it's funny because then in certain situations you can't. Then there's no, like, a lot of things are open to interpretation. So like my senior year of high school, I had 1 loss, and it was in the state quarterfinals. I was winning 6-3 on top with 26 seconds left in the match, and I got hit with my first warning for stalling. Okay, warning. Point, and then with 2 seconds left on the clock, 2 points. I finished the match on top. I lost the match 7-6. But you can't review stall calls. Okay, like if you're on the ankle, yeah, but like just in general, stall calls could be hit at any time. You can't review that. And like I could go back and say, well, this and that. That taught me a big lesson. That taught me a very important lesson in life. That sometimes you get the call, sometimes you don't get the call. And that's life. And be grateful. Thanks be to God when you get the call. And when you don't get the call, that's fine too. This is a sport. And my coach, I got to say this about Don Ernst, who is my coach, God rest his soul. He did not harp on the bad calls at all. Everyone in my life spoke to me about the bad calls. Oh, you got hosed and this and that. He didn't say anything about that. He said, when you get a guy on his back, because I had a fireman's carry, he said, if you split his legs and you were elbow deep, that match would have ended with him on his back. And he made the comment, you need to take the referee out of the match. And that was an important lesson. That's a more important lesson, not just in wrestling, but also in life, than if that call would have been overturned and perfect justice would have happened. What lesson would have learned? Yeah, like, okay, yes. Was my heart ripped out of my chest and my dreams were crushed? Yes. No one wants to see that. But we have to look to the greater good, the greater picture. First of all, people have a life. It's not just about wrestling. I love wrestling, but we can't have matches that are going that long, the whole tournament. And people say, well, look, we don't want to see anyone's, dreams are being determined. Dreams are always being determined. Dreams are being, you know how many dreams I've seen crushed in wrestle-offs? We work with a lot of top private schools, Catholic schools. Dreams get crushed in the practice room in wrestle-offs. Dreams get crushed in the dual meets because coaches make decisions based on what happened in the dual meets. Dreams get crushed in preseason tournaments, mid-season tournaments, end of the season tournaments. It happens. So we have to speed wrestling along. And I would say, no, that what they had at the NCAAs in terms of a headquarters of the calls and all those different angles, this is absurd. And it's symptomatic of a greater issue that, like, we have to get this just right. And it's like, no, life isn't fair. You need to teach kids that life isn't fair. And you need to move on. And you need to take the ref out of the match. And it doesn't happen all the time because a lot of people are neck and neck. But that's just the way the balls bounce. And some days the balls don't bounce your way that day. Maybe the next day the balls will bounce your way. And thanks be to God when they do. That's my point. I would say no instant replays. Right there, as I said, thanks be to God. One thing I noticed, this is by far one of the most Christian sports. How many times I've heard God thanked after the NCAAs, and as far as just a religious sport, hearing about Jesus, our Lord. And now this is during Holy Week. We're in Lent. We're coming in at the final couple days of Holy Week, of Holy Thursday coming up, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and then Easter Sunday. And there was a lot of people who were Figueroa, after winning, he blessed himself, and his mother was holding the rosary beads, and I love it. It's like you're watching EWTN, and there's the Blessed Mother Mary's, her weapon, the powerful weapon of the rosary in her hand. She was holding the rosary, her rosary beads the whole match. And this was a gift given to us from heaven, with Mary Immaculate, the mother of our Lord. So I thought that was great. And again, Brooks, Carr, all these guys talking about our Lord. Like I said, Figueroa making the sign of the cross on national television. The mother holding the rosary beads with the crucifix hanging, and especially with this. That was the day before Palm Sunday. So the NCAAs. So hats off to these wrestlers. You know what it is? It gives them a certain level of perspective. I know they talk about it at Iowa, Penn State. All these places, Ohio State, like they're talking about the importance of faith and keeping things in perspective, and faith really does keep things in perspective. So these athletes, there's a reason why they're winning, and it's because they have the right perspective. When you have the right perspective, you could wrestle free. Parker, he spoke about it. I know I'm missing other people. There were several. Henson brought it up. Like I know I'm missing guys. Penn State heavyweight. There was a lot of people who brought up, and I know I'm missing people here, but a lot of people talking about faith. So it's a big deal. And especially during Holy Week, I think we'd all benefit from really entering deeper into our Lord's passion. And it's not just about, not that it's not just about natural gain and natural success. Yes, that's a result of it. But really entering deep into our Lord's passion, realizing, He died for me. He died for you. He died for me. And even if you were the one person in this world, Jesus would have still come and died for you. And that's powerful. And like I said, that's far beyond sports. And if sports is just, I think a lot of these guys also realize they're great athletes. God gave them a purpose. And that purpose is to give them a platform to talk about the glory of God and helping you. So we should all, one of my regrets is I didn't say this a lot of time, not that I was interviewed that much, but I could have, even after matches, I should have thanked God more. And that probably made me wrestle worse because I wasn't thinking as much about my faith. Even though faith was always important to me, it wasn't sometimes at the forefront of my mind like it is for a lot of these other people with the 100% Jesus headbands. So, and that's a good practice, a good spiritual practice. Anytime our Lord's name is mentioned, whenever you hear it, whenever it's said, you show devotion by bowing your head. So, faith, that was a great thing. Like I said, really awesome. It's got to be one of the most Christian sports in all of college sports. I mean, wrestling, you just see a lot of people are talking about their faith. Awesome, just awesome, and especially during Holy Week. So let's use this opportunity to really dive deeper into our Lord's passion, knowing that if we make the total gift of ourselves, like our Lord did on the cross, we imitate Him. After the crucifixion is always the resurrection. So, great stuff, great. What else? Man, I mean, just so many guys wrestling really tough out there. I mean, those matches with, again, seeing Mekhi Lewis and Starachi and Shane Griffith in there and Carr and O'Toole. And these guys are just, I mean, talk about being mentally tough. Guys going after each other, Messenbrink. I mean, all these guys, they're just aggressive. Levi Haynes, these guys are getting after it. You see the best wrestlers, they could score. They could get to the leg. You watch Parker Kakaisen wrestle. We did a show with him. I mean, he was really looking to wrestle free, and he did. It's like you turn your head in the first period, and he's already got 6 or 7 points up on the board. Yeah, that's how you want to wrestle. So, like I said, there's just some initial thoughts. Kale again talking about how it's just a game and it keeps things into perspective. And now Penn State is on to thinking about the next thing. Real hats off to Cornell, wrestling really tough. I mean, we know it was going to be, and we all know that it was basically a run for second place. No one's really competing with Penn State right now as far as a team. I'm not saying they can't be, like, everyone's human, but like, the battles for second place, and Cornell came out on top. And that's another good point. We all know Penn State, their sports psychologist, Bonnie Epstein. So Penn State, as dominant as they are, they have their sports psychologist who has their office right next to the wrestling room. Cornell in their picture, who is in the picture? Dr. Shelley, the sports psychologist over at Cornell. And then at Michigan, our friend, Dr. Jared Spencer. He was in there with the picture. So those top 3 teams, Penn State, Cornell, Michigan, there's their sports psychologist right there. So there's no doubt about it. These teams are they're not leaving their mindset to chance. They're putting it all out there on the table. And those people are in the pictures with these people. Or maybe Bonnie Epstein wasn't this year, but she's been in every single picture. And everyone knows she's a massive part of the success of Penn State. So, I mean, I know people are still asking us all the time about working with wrestling mindset. If you want to take that wrestling to the next level, look at Vito. He was able to bring out his best when it meant the most. I mean, he had losses during the year, didn't always look like himself, but when the time came, the cream tends to rise to the top. And if you're doing the right things, it's not always, we all know this, it's not fair, we know this is not a fair world, people always get what they deserve in this world, but we know that a lot of times the cream does rise to the top, and he did. So, they're working on their mindset. They're not leaving it to chance. They have unbelievable perspective, these people. So make sure you're working on your mind. Make sure you DM us. We're happy to help you. Wrestling Mindset. This is the best time of year to start with your mindset because it's fresh in your mind. Right after the season, it's fresh in your mind. It'll never be more fresh. You're going to start forgetting things as the spring goes on and the weather gets nicer. So now is when you want to start doing your mindset training, right? When do you want to give yourself to God? Now. Now is the acceptable time. Now is the day of salvation. When's the best time to do mindset training? Now. Similar thing. Making sure at a natural level, at a supernatural level, the faith is the most important thing, of course. At the natural level, there's nothing more important than mindset because, like I said, this whole the instant replays, to me, that's symptomatic of a softer generation. I get why it's done. I'm not putting it down. If you're going to do it, if you have to absolutely do it, there's got to be a time limit. There's just no excuse. Because what about the guy who's working real hard and is in real good shape? They might not be the most athletic or explosive, but they could wear the other guy down. Don't you want to see that guy get rewarded? I'd like to see that guy get rewarded. I feel like that was me. I was not, like I said, I was not an overly talented wrestler. I don't think I had a ton of gifts. I was a grinder in terms of going hard. So it's like, I don't want my opponent to get a break. Let's keep it fun. Let's keep the action going. That's what people are going to want in the sport of wrestling. So like I said, just some initial thoughts with wrestling. Like I said, Kale saying it's just a game, keeping it in perspective, and now they're back in the gym. They're preparing for the next one. Always looking ahead, not looking ahead in terms of pressure, but looking ahead. There's always going to be something next, and all these Penn State guys are saying that there's always something next. We're looking for the next thing. Carter Starachi winning a 4th NCAA title, and Aaron Brooks, 2 4-time state national champs, joining the likes of Patrick Smith, Cale Sanderson, Logan Stieber, Kyle Dake. Did I say Cale? I think I said Cale. Dake, Stieber, Yanni, our guy Yanni, popping out of my head. The recent guys, right? And Yanni, and like, look at all those guys. They had to gut it out. Yanni had to gut out some heroic wins to win it. Logan Stieber had to gut out some heroic wins. And calls are always going to be part of the stuff, and that's okay. So hats off to these guys, man. I mean, when you think about just how good a guy like Yanni is, and then to think that these are 2 guys from Penn State who did it this year, incredible. It's incredible. So keep up the good work, everyone. Awesome wrestling season, and now is the time we prepare for next year. There's no better time than right now. Pretty soon, you're going to be the one running out on mat 1. Not your opponent, not your family, not your friends, not your coaches. You're going to be the one out there on mat 1. So you need to be ready, and you need to be ready mentally. Make sure you get a hold of us. Mindset makes the difference. Great NCAA tournament. We'll see you soon for the Olympic trials.